This is the Centric Health segment. We have Dr. Bridge Bomby, who's been joining us every Friday for, oh man, going on a year or so. And sometimes he brings in a special guest. They're always outstanding people, and he's got one now today, Dr. Bill Baker. I know a lot of you. Dr. Baker is one of, has been around for a while, and he is much beloved in this community. I know have a lot of friends who have been to Dr. Baker. He's part of the Centric Health Network as well. I want to welcome them both, Doctors Baker and Bomby. Welcome, gentlemen. How are you?
Hi, Richard. How are you?
Terrific, terrific. Let's start. I'm not sure where to start here, but I did want to get this question in, Dr. Bomby. I'm going to start with you, if you don't mind. There's been a lot of talk about this Astrozenica vaccine, which has not been approved for use in the United States by the FDA yet. It is one of the go-to vaccines in Europe that was approved by the European Union. There have been some limited number of cases where blood clots have formed in some of the people who had been administered the vaccine in Europe. It was pulled, I believe it was pulled, you can correct me here, it was pulled, I believe, temporarily in Italy and perhaps even Germany. Since then, the head medical director of the European Union has said that the vaccine is safe. I'm wondering, my question to you is, what do you know of this vaccine? Apparently it's being queued up for approval in the United States. And with that experience in Europe, even if it's proved to be, well, there really wasn't anything to it, it seems to have a scarlet letter attached to it already. I mean, people are going to be looking at that and thinking, well, I don't want that one. They had problems in Europe. I want one of the others. Can you tell us, Dr. Bomby, what you know about the Astrozeneca vaccine and how that differs from what we're seeing from Pfizer, Moderna, and J&J now?
So, Richard, thanks for setting the table. This AstraZeneca vaccine is a adenovirus-based vaccine, and that's a fairly established technology. What has happened is about 17 million people in UK and EU, European Union, have received the vaccine. The problem started in Norway, Denmark, and Germany. In Germany, they vaccinated about 1.6 million people with the AstraZeneca vaccine. And the numbers are still kind of in a flux because there are different numbers in different newspapers. The maximum I saw today in Wall Street Journal is that 13 people out of 1.6 million had a clot in the brain, and 3 of them died. And 12 out of 13 were young women. So the concern comes in when the young women are taking a vaccine. They're also on oral contraceptives, and I don't know how many of them were smokers. So when a side effect or a problem emerges in a group that has been treated with a vaccine or otherwise, there are 2 components that we need to be clear about. Is there a cause and effect relationship, or is there an anticipated incidence of that particular population that is at par with otherwise would have happened with or without the vaccine? Which it means is that the vaccine isn't going to prevent clotting problems if a person was already predisposed to it by a number of reasons. So, for instance, give you a background, we are less than 1 million people in Bakersfield, and the number denominator in Germany is 1.6 million people, so essentially twice as much as us. So I can guarantee you, and Dr. Baker is the thrombosis specialist, I'd love to hear his opinion about it, that if you have a population Kern County size, how many thrombotic episodes occur anyway with or without the vaccine? My guess is as much or higher. So that's number one. Number two, when you have a raging pandemic, and you well know that the Europe is now amidst another spurt, and the number of deaths and cases exceeds this time last year. So they're in the middle of a pandemic. What is the ethical approach that's more appropriate to hold a vaccine that can potentially save more lives, even if there is a cause and effect relationship with the clotting, which the medical director, as you reported, said there isn't any. Having said that, there were a couple scientists, one in Norway, one in Netherlands, who tried to link the vaccine through immune mediation to thrombotic occlusion. So the science is murky, but the probability is small. In the middle of a pandemic, where do you come out ahead? That's where the ball settles, and seems to me that the evidence is substantially large that vaccination is the right way, irrespective of the nature of the vaccine. And I don't think it matters in this country if you take AstraZeneca, J&J, Moderna, or Pfizer vaccine, because they all do what's necessary, prevent deaths and prevent hospitalization.
Okay. Would you, Dr. Bami, would you have any hesitation to take the AstraZeneca vaccine yourself?
I would never have. Absolutely not, because 17 million people, so essentially 2 per million have had a thrombotic problem, 2 per million. And that's not a high number, and that should be par for course for this disease process in the presence or absence of vaccine.
Okay, so when you say absolutely not, you mean you have absolutely no reservations about taking it?
Yes, absolutely.
Okay, right,
no reservations.
Very, very good. Dr. Bill Baker, welcome to the show. Dr. Baker, did you have anything to add on the AstraZeneca vaccine?
No, I've read the reports, and my subspecialty is thrombosis and hemostasis, so I'm pretty familiar with the literature in that area. And there is no proven causative link between thrombosis and the vaccine itself. So when I saw that, I was, of course, interested and concerned. But once I reviewed the data, I was convinced that there is no proven causal link between the two. The point you make, though, is a very good one about the scarlet letter. And that is that there's so much politicization of COVID and treatments, vaccines, that I'm more concerned about the suggestion that a vaccine might be safe, tainting its reputation and limiting its availability. And there's no science upon which to make those decisions.
Yeah, unfortunately, sometimes that science takes a back seat to public perception, for better or worse. Dr. Baker, let me ask you this. I want to talk about this concept of brain fog, and I understand you have some personal interest in this. Can you tell us about this?
Well, yes, I can. We have been taking care of at our practice COVID patients since the very beginning. I think I took care of the first patient in second week in March, first week in March last year. His story was well publicized in the Californian. And so we've taken care of a lot of patients and been through folks who've unfortunately been hospitalized and passed on, and others who stayed at home and been very, very sick, and others who've not been very sick at all. So we've seen the spectrum of disease. And it is becoming very apparent that this is not just a respiratory disease. In the first few days of understanding of this pandemic, it was a respiratory disease. It was fevers, chills, body aches, and a cough. And then it didn't take but a few weeks for us to understand that the spectrum of affected organs was much broader, thus the spectrum of symptoms. One of the things that we have learned over the last year is the significant impact that this disease has on the brain. We know that the complications, the hospitalizations, the deaths from COVID-19 primarily relate to something called cytokine storm, a severe inflammatory reaction, which our body can have to many, many different causes. But in this case, the inflammatory response also significantly affects the brain. There's been some debate or concern, unknown as to whether the virus invasion and directly infecting brain cells was causing the apparent brain injury. And the most recent science indicates that it's a generalized inflammatory process with leaking, inflammation and leaking of the smallest arteries and veins in the brain, just as in other parts of the body. But the consequence is not only significant acutely, but can be significant over the longer term. I see patients who've been hospitalized and have a stroke-like pattern in their brain scans from the small blood vessel injury and compromise of blood supply, small vessel clots in the brain, like many small strokes. Patients with brain fog of all ages are being studied, and we see MRI changes in the brain that are significant. This has come home to us and our family. We have two of the family. We have 4 children, and our family in Denver and a family in Phoenix both have all been afflicted with COVID. Fortunately, none too seriously. But the most concerning is our 7-year-old grandson, who, as a result of a very seemingly mild infection, he was only sick for a couple of days and went back to school. And his teacher called and said that he was extremely emotional and holding his head, and he was the top of his class in math and could barely do basic simple addition concepts.
Oh, wow.
It was difficult for him to function, claiming to his mom, Mommy, I don't remember, I can't think. This is a 7-year-old. Of course, as a grandparent, that's pretty devastating to hear.
Well, that's terrifying. Let me make sure I heard you right. So when I heard the concept of brain fog, I thought maybe that was like a COVID-induced temporary, like, like waking up with a hangover or something. You're talking about permanent damage. You're talking about damage that looks like, as you said, a series of small strokes or something. Did I get that right?
Yes, it's a diffuse encephalomyelitis, which is an inflammatory condition in the brain which can cause permanent damage, and that's evident on brain scans, on MRIs. And there are also studies that are looking at the developmental changes and impaired brain maturity in children who are so afflicted. So it affects not only just temporary functions of the brain, but also brain cell maturation and the connections, which are called synapses between brain cells, between neurons.
Is there, Dr. Baker, I have to ask you, this is fascinating. Is there any indication that, you talked about your 7-year-old grandson, I believe. Is there any reason to believe that young people are particularly susceptible to this, or is this maybe an outlier? Do we know?
No. What we do know is that the sicker one is, the more likely neurologic symptoms are to persist, and MRI brain imaging changes are to be present. And that's true of children, too. For instance, the children with multi-system inflammatory system, syndrome, which is a syndrome in children who have diffuse inflammation of arteries, veins, and organs. And those kids, some of them die. Fortunately, it's rare, and the death rate is not as high as we would expect based on their presentation. But those children, or children who have a severe case of COVID with requiring mechanical ventilation, those are the ones that are most vulnerable to more serious and perhaps permanent damage. The same is true in adults. The adults who survive after being on mechanical ventilation or requiring prolonged oxygen support, those are the ones most vulnerable to long-term brain injury. And that is the concern, and experts have opined that we may see a dramatic increase in dementia over the next 10 years.
Oh, wow. God, that's terrifying.
For children, the younger you are, the better your brain can heal and the better it can resolve. So someone like my grandson, who was not terribly ill, but has this problem, is expected to recover.
Okay.
Time will tell as to how long that takes functionally. Over the last month, he has been getting better. His math concepts, his emotional stability is better. But, this is tough. This is the kid who, when he walks in the room, everybody wants to give him a hug and hang out with him. So for him to now be socially inhibited and emotional and feel like he's not as smart as he was, that's pretty tough.
Oh, man, I can only imagine. It's terrifying. Dr. Bombi, let's get back to you. And we're running out of time. This has been a fascinating segment. What do the resurgence in these cases in Europe mean for us? I understand that the United States seems to be doing better than the European Union in terms of inoculations and vaccinations. It kind of fits and starts in Europe. Is that the reason they're having this third wave, or is this something that we should be worried about here?
I think it's a multivariate. One, they have the new variant, which is more aggressive, both in terms of infection and contagiousness and virulence. Second thing is, as you mentioned, the rollout of the vaccination. The rollout of the vaccination has been slow. They, in Europe, have 1/3 the vaccination relative to U.S. and United Kingdom. And the reason for that is the EU has been very parsimonious in their approach to gather the vaccinations ahead of time because they are much more anti-corporate than U.S. is. In U.S., we love corporate America. Over there, they hate corporations because they link corporations with profiteering. So in their effort to drive a hard bargain, they were unable to accumulate an inventory so they could inoculate their own. We were successful in getting the inventory. Israel has been successful in getting the inventory. EU were parsimonious, and they lost considerable time and thus lost a lot more lives. Also, there's a cultural gap, especially in Germany, following the Nazi history. They really don't want to impose on people. So there is a little separation, do no harm thought process. The do no harm thought process in pandemic, when you avoid vaccination, actually causes more harm. So the bioethics, they're questionable. In France and most of the EU, there is a considerable anti-vaxxer sentiment that further slows down. And then you have this Astrozenica thing happen. It creates further hurdles in people's mind in accepting vaccination. So lack of vaccination, emergence of new variant, and continued vulnerability is the reason the spurt is happening. But we have to be careful that Europe generally is 2-3 weeks ahead of us. We don't want us to be at the receiving end of another wave 3 weeks down the line. So the vaccine hesitancy in this country needs to be overcome. That's my main concern, that we could lose our gains if we fall toward vaccine hesitancy in this country.
Oh, man. Do you think we're opening up too quickly in California, Dr. Bombi?
I think I've been always for opening as long as you take the precautions. The danger is when you become cavalier and lackadaisical. That's when you expose people. But typically speaking, about a third of the people already had the infection. Another 16% are fully vaccinated. So we have a core of people who will be a shield against spread. But the new variants will create more challenge because of their increased contagiousness. So my emphasis continues to be on vaccinate, and be preventative till we have come on the other side.
Okay. All right. Very good. Well, we are out of time here, man. It's 2:26. Some great information and that some disturbing information about brain fog. If you missed my conversation with Dr. Bridgebomby and Dr. Bill Baker, it will be posted on KERN, kernradio.com. It'll be posted there maybe an hour after the show ends, and you can pick it up there. Dr. Bill Baker, so great to have you on, sir. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Richard. I appreciate it very much. Thank you for having me.
And Dr. Bomby, always great talking to you, sir. I deeply appreciate it.
Appreciate it, sir. Thank you. Be safe.